was obtained by this Lineweaver-Burks equation because of the fact that if you look for the Michaelis and Menton's this curve, it is a rectangular hyperbolic curve, and the competition of enzyme molecules in between, that is a curvature part, could not be obtained because this is a mixed order kinetics, and we can only use the linear part, that is the first order kinetic part. So this is corresponding to just very small amount of substrate. So if instead of substrate you are going to study the velocity of an enzyme and replace it by the inhibitor, this curve is not a very good curve. Why? Because if you go on increasing this inhibitor concentration, that zero order kinetic part, which says that now enzyme is saturated, cannot be exploited. So we started with enzyme plus the substrate forming an enzyme substrate complex, and we assume three things. One, that this whole reaction is a unireactive system with just one substrate. We have one central complex, and the formation of an enzyme substrate complex is the one that defines the product formation. So these were the assumptions. So you need to remember these three assumptions that were taken by Michaelis and Menton. Now going on to the competitive inhibition. See, we said that competitive inhibition is a reversible one. So the condition which is required for an inhibitor to act as a competitive inhibitor is that it should be a substrate analog, first thing. So when you are saying that it's a substrate analog, this means that it is competing for the active site of an enzyme. And substrate analog means that at least it should share some homology, some similarity with the actual substrate. So what it is going to do is that it is going to compete with the active site, compete with the normal substrate, and if it is going to occupy the active site, the enzyme will not be able to take up its own substrate. So this will be inhibited. And what are the changes that are being brought about is that it was observed that during this, when the enzyme encounters a competitive inhibitor, Vmax remained unchanged and Km was found to be increased. Now, why Vmax remained unchanged was that this is a competition that is going on between the substrate and the inhibitor. So if you keep on going increasing the concentration of the substrate, it will start to displace the inhibitor. So inhibitor would be displaced so that your enzyme will start acquiring a normal velocity. Now, when you are increasing the substrate, what you are doing is that you are providing more and more substrates, as a result of which Km increases, because we defined Km as that substrate concentration which leads to half the maximum velocity. So you are increasing the substrate to allow the enzyme to attain half of the maximum velocity. So increase in the substrate requirement, increase in the Km value. Now, how it could be reversed? It could be reversed by just adding more or more substrate, or your cell tries to overcome the action of this inhibitor by synthesizing more or more substrate. If we look for the schematic representation of this competitive inhibition, then this is represented as a normal course of reaction where enzyme combines with the substrate to form an enzyme substrate complex, and that this single central complex is going to give rise to a free enzyme and the product. Now, since there is a competition between the active site of an enzyme with the substrate and inhibitor, if your system is having any free enzyme, that will be captured by the inhibitor to form EI complex or enzyme inhibitor complex. This is a dead end. This does not lead to the formation of the product. So only free enzyme is capable of being inhibited here. If it is taken up by the substrate, very well, product would be formed. But if it is captured by the inhibitor, this EI complex or enzyme inhibitor complex could be formed, which will not result in the product formation. But you can overcome it by supplying the substrate so that the inhibitor would be displaced and you will get your product. Now, what are the changes that are being represented here when you use a Lineweaver-Burks equation? See, the derivation is not there in the course. What you need to remember is that if inhibition is happening in an enzyme, the change that is brought about is supposed to be studied at the level of Vmax or at the level of Km values. So here what we are doing is that we are increasing the substrate concentration to overcome the inhibition. So we are increasing the requirement of the substrate. So Km is going to be increased. Increased by what factor? Increased by a factor that is known as alpha, where alpha is represented by 1 plus the inhibitor concentration divided by the Ki value, this one. 1 plus I over Ki. So if Km is increasing, you multiply it by this factor. If Km is decreasing, you divide it by this factor. That is all what we will stick to. So the change brought about in the Lineweaver-Burks equation would be that here this plot is representing an increase in the Km value, whereas the Vmax remains same. Why? Because your cell, if it is alive and if it is healthy, it will synthesize more and more substrate, although it may take time. But your enzyme will recover to its maximum velocity. That is why Vmax remains the same here, even in the presence of a competitive inhibitor. That is how it's represented. Now, most of the drugs that are given, they are designed to behave in a competitive way. Again, the reason is that your cell may recover back. That is the reason why the drug or the pharmacokinetics of an enzyme happens to act at the level of a competitive inhibition, mostly whenever these drugs are given to a live system. Say, for example, one of the drugs that is given in hypertension, that is alpha methyl dopa. This is a competitive inhibitor of an enzyme, dopa D-carboxylase. You can take one more example, like all the statins, like lovastatin. That statins are cholesterol lowering drugs. So these cholesterol lowering drugs or cholesterol metabolism is regulated at the level of an enzyme, HMG-CoA reductase. So what statins are doing is that statins, they inhibit HMG-CoA reductase through competitive mode. So this graph plus the change in the Lineweaver-Burks equation, that is, what we are observing is that Vmax is not changed. When Vmax is not changed, we are not going to touch Vmax here. What is happening to the Km value? Km value is increasing. So we are going to multiply this Km with the factor 1 plus I divided by Ki, because it's increasing here. And likewise, we are going to get the equation for a competitive inhibition. Now for a non-competitive inhibition, the thing is that this type of inhibition is carried out by those compounds which are not the substrate analogs. So when they are not the substrate analog, there is no competition for the active site. When there is no competition for the active site, this means that the active site is now conserved there for the substrate. This inhibitor or the compound, which is a non-competitive inhibitor, will bind to any other site over the enzyme, leaving the active site. So there is no competition between the active site for the substrate and the site for the inhibitor. But what happens here is that when the inhibitor, which is a non-competitive inhibitor, will go and bind to the enzyme, it is going to distort the active site. So that now the substrate fitting, that is the proximity and the orientation of the substrate is distorted. And when this substrate orientation and its proximity is distorted, the enzyme would be inhibited. Now, in this case, if we go on increasing the concentration of the substrate, this increment in the substrate concentration is not going to revert back the activity of an enzyme. Rather, what will happen is that still that your substrate would be there at the active site. So the only way is to dialyze out the inhibitor. So you need to remove the inhibitor completely from the system. The changes that are observed at this level is that since the substrate is not going to help you out in reverting back the activity of an enzyme, Km is unchanged. Nothing is going to happen if you either increase or decrease the concentration of the substrate. Vmax values are going to decrease. More the concentration of the inhibitor you are going to supply, more is the decline in the velocity of an enzyme. So you can only remove the inhibition by removing the inhibitor. So Vmax decreased in this case, Km unchanged. Now if we look at the schematic representation of a non-competitive inhibition, now this The upper part is representing that in a normal course, the enzyme would have combined with the substrate to form an enzyme substrate complex, giving rise to a free enzyme and the product. Now, if the inhibitor is present, in this case, it can bind to the free enzyme as well as to the enzyme substrate complex because the binding site is not the active site. So this scheme is very different from the competitive inhibition. Because of the fact that the inhibitor is not competing for the active site, it can bind to any site on the enzyme, which is quite different from the active site. So the non-competitive inhibitor will bind to either a free enzyme or to the enzyme substrate complex. Then what will happen? We are going to have, instead of a binary complex, we are going to have ultimately a ternary complex. तीन चीजों से बना हुआ, that is ESI complex. In the first case of a competitive inhibition, the stop point was EI complex. Here the stop point is ESI complex. Why? Because of the capability of the inhibitor to interact both ways, either with the free enzyme or with the enzyme substrate complex. So ultimately what will happen? A ternary complex, ESI complex is formed, no product formation. When product is not formed, your enzyme is inhibited. So in this case, if you look for the graph is shown in this orientation that Km values are unchanged and the velocity goes on decreasing. The slope of the plot is increasing because the slope is given by Km divided by Vmax. So Vmax approximate here is written. When Vmax approximate is written, this means that we have to apply the factor 1 plus I over Ki. So when velocity is decreasing, we will be dividing the velocity by 1 plus I over Ki in the equation on both the places wherever the Vmax is written. So your equation would become 1 plus phi is equal to Km into 1 plus I over Ki. Why? Because Vmax would be divided and this factor will go up to the numerator. Similarly, after the plus sign, we are having the velocity Vmax in the denominator. So we are going to divide the Vmax or the velocity in the denominator so that your factor will go up into the numerator. So these are the changes that are brought about in a non-competitive inhibition. And most of the toxins, specifically the toxins that are derived from the mushrooms, the toxins and the environmental pollutants, say for example, cyanide is one of the toxin. This cyanide non-competitively inhibits cytochrome oxidase. So this is one of the example. Most of the iodoacetates or iodoacetate pollutants or iodoacetate components, they have the capability of inhibiting all the enzymes which are having sulfur-hydryl groups at their active sites. So enzymes with SH groups are inhibited by iodoacetate. Then we can have an example of fluoride. Fluoride is a compound that inhibits enolase. And enolase is an enzyme of glycolysis. So when enolase is inhibited, your glycolysis is inhibited. So how does fluoride act? It quenches magnesium or manganese ions. Then we have the third class of the reversible inhibition, that is your uncompetitive inhibition. And in case of an uncompetitive inhibition, again, there is no competition for the active site. Now, in this case, this is a very typical case, and we are having in a human system just one example for an uncompetitive inhibition because of the assumption that we started acting with the unireactant system and we don't have any type of unireactant system operative in the human system. So for an uncompetitive inhibition, the requirement is that a classical uncompetitive inhibitor will only bind to the ES complex and not to the free enzyme. So this is telling you that the acquiring or the presence of the binding site for an inhibitor is created by the substrate. When the substrate binds to the enzyme, the ES complex is formed, and this ES complex creates a site so that your uncompetitive inhibitor may come and bind to it. And this is again also reverted by removing the inhibitor. So in this case, what happens to Vmax and Km, that both are decreased. So if you look for the schematic representation, the binding of the inhibitor is only possible at the level of enzyme substrate complex. So again, you are going to have a ternary complex, which is the stop point. So when ESI complex is formed, no product is formed and your enzyme is inhibited. But this at this stage also, it could be reverted back by removing the inhibitor, and we cannot revert it back by adding the substrate. The substrate addition is only going to help you out with the case of a competitive inhibitor. Leaving the competitive inhibition, uncompetitive and non-competitive inhibition cannot be reverted by adding the substrate. So if we look for the changes in the Km and Vmax values, both Km and Vmax are decreased here. So when both Km and Vmax are decreased, what will happen to the slope? Is the slope going to increase or decrease? Will the slope increase or decrease? Shifa Khan?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Can you tell me what is going to happen if?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, can you observe any change in the slope in this case?
Ma'am, your voice was breaking. Can you please repeat?
Acha. I wanted to ask that in case of an uncompetitive inhibition, the change was at the level of both Km and Vmax. The Km and Vmax both were decreasing.
Yes, ma'am.
So, is the slope increasing or decreasing?
Ma'am, it will remain constant if the change is is the relative change is same, then it will remain constant.
Okay. What will happen to the Lineweaver-Burks equation? Will the equation change or still it will remain the same?
Ma'am, it will remain the same.
The whole equation?
Yes, ma'am.
See the green rectangle. Is it going to change or not?
Ma'am, because Vmax is also present on the other side, so that's why it's going to change.
Yes.
One part will remain same.
Yes. So the slope will remain same on increasing the concentration of inhibitor, but your velocity, because you are having one more factor, 1 over Vmax, so this Vmax will be now an approximate Vmax. So here, because Vmax is decreasing, you are going to divide this Vmax by a factor 1 plus I upon Ki. So your Lineweaver-Burks equation is going to change because you are having a factor of Vmax. But here the parallel lines are indicating that your slope is not changing. So what is given in some of the questions is that just the graph is given. And you need to identify by looking at the graph that which type of inhibitor is added to it. If it is a parallel line, your inhibition is of uncompetitive type. But if your Km is same and your velocity is decreasing, it is of non-competitive type. And if your Km is increasing, velocity is remaining the same, it is of competitive type. So there is just one example present in the human system, which is known to show a classical uncompetitive inhibition, and that is the placental alkaline phosphatase. This is known as Regan's isozyme, and it is taken as a tumor marker. So alkaline phosphatase of placental origin. Placental origin ka matlab alkaline phosphatase that is coming from placenta is inhibited by an amino acid phenylalanine. So in this case, phenylalanine is acting as an inhibitor and it is inhibiting the enzyme alkaline phosphatase. Of which type? Of the placental type. So that why we said that these inhibitors are used for the diagnosis is that if in your serum you will be having, see we discussed on one of the lecture that alkaline phosphatase has number of isoforms. And one of the isoform of an alkaline phosphatase is the placental one. And as you can easily pick it out, that why would the placental alkaline phosphatase would be there in an individual or in a male or in a female, non-pregnant female, because this is derived from the placenta. If at all you are detecting alkaline phosphatase of placental inhibition, of placental origin in a non-pregnant female or in a male individual, this indicates that something is abnormal. But with your eyes, you cannot look for what is alkaline phosphatase. Either you do electrophoresis, check it out with the antibodies, that is a time requiring test, or you quickly do the kinetics by inhibiting in presence of its inhibitor phenylalanine. Now, if the enzyme is inhibited, then you can say that yes, the placental type was present. And this is a very important tumor marker. So this is helping in you that with the diagnostics. Now, overall, we can say that for a competitive inhibition, talking in terms of maximum velocity, there is no change. Why? Because if you supply the substrate, maximum velocity is attainable. In terms of Km value, because we are supplying the substrate, requirement of substrate is increasing, so Km value is going to increase. Then for a non-competitive inhibition, Vmax declines. There is no change in the Km value. Whereas for an uncompetitive inhibition, both the Vmax and the Km values, they are supposed to decline. But in all, the mixed type is not there in your course. So we'll be sticking to the competitive, non-competitive, and uncompetitive. And all the three, they are the reversible forms of inhibition. Now coming on to the irreversible type of inhibition. In this case, the inhibitor happens to create such changes in the structure of an enzyme that now you are losing your enzyme completely in terms of its functionality, so that by any means you cannot revert back your enzyme. And in order for a compound to act as a suicide inhibitor, it should be a substrate analog of the particular enzyme. Now, when it is a substrate analog, this is going to bind to the active site. So this portion of suicide inhibition is in similarity with the competitive inhibition. Now, in terms of its kinetic properties, Vmax is changed and Km is unchanged. So Vmax is decreased and the Km value is unchanged. So can anybody tell me what, in terms of the kinetic properties, to which type of inhibition does this resemble? Vmax decrease, non-competitive. Very good. So when we are talking about a suicide inhibition, structurally, your inhibitor is a structural analog of the substrate, resemblance with the competitive part. Kinetically, it is behaving as a non-competitive inhibition. And the most important thing is that you are losing your enzyme, it cannot be reverted. Another name for a suicide inhibition is a kinetic mechanism based inhibitor. Why do we call it as a kinetic mechanism based inhibitor? The reason is that whenever your enzyme encounters an inhibitor, in rest of the three cases, what we said was that the inhibitor directly combines with the enzyme, forms an enzyme inhibitor complex, and the reaction stops. No product formation, nothing happens. But in case of a suicide inhibitor, this inhibitor is processed. It is kinetically processed. So it is processed like a substrate. So what is happening is that your inhibitor is fooling your enzyme. It is trying to mimic the substrate, and therefore your enzyme takes it up, processes it. In between, it forms a very reactive intermediate, and that reactive intermediate attaches to the enzyme's active site through a covalent bond. So you know that covalent bond is a very strong bond. So that becomes a permanent modification for an enzyme. So your enzyme is permanently modified in terms of its structure and therefore in terms of its function as well. So here processing takes place, so you call it as kinetic mechanism, because mechanism is happening. What the enzyme was supposed to do, that is happening. So this is kinetic mechanism based inhibitor. So actually the first inhibitor that is coming is not doing the purpose of inhibiting the enzyme. Rather, it is initiating the enzyme inhibition. In between, the enzyme is going to form something that will completely stop the reaction. That is what actually happens here. Now, in our system, we can talk of two types. There are many society inhibitors, but during the course of your biochemistry study and the metabolism, you are going to study about these two types of inhibitors which behave through the mechanism of society inhibition. One comes from the degradation of purines. Now, when purines are degraded, either from your DNA, RNA, or from your diet, if you are consuming purines, the last two steps of purine degradation is that hypoxanthine converting to xanthine, and then xanthine forms uric acid. So if the uric acid production is increased in the body or increased in the blood, we call it as hyperuricemia. Now, if the cause for hyperuricemia is metabolic means through these steps of metabolism, then this is handled by a drug that is given is known as an allopurinol. But if your metabolism is normal and the uric acid production is normal, and still if uric acid is presented with hyperuricemia, this may give an idea that some renal handling problem would have been there. So for the renal handling, different other drugs or diuretics are given. So that is a different story. But allopurinol is given to overcome hyperuricemia because of the metabolic cause. So this is one of the drug, allopurinol, that is structural analog of hypoxanthine, and it is going to inhibit xanthine oxidase. What will happen that instead of hypoxanthine binding to the active site of xanthine oxidase, allopurinol will acquire the active site. Your xanthine oxidase will process allopurinol to alloxanthine, and then alloxanthine will completely inhibit xanthine oxidase. So this is one of the example of a suicide inhibition. Now, second example that is cited here is about the synthesis of two important components that are known as prostaglandins, prostacyclins, and thromboxanes. And these are the components which are involved in the inflammatory reactions. Thromboxanes, they promote platelet aggregation, thrombosis, as well as prostacyclins and prostaglandins. They are also involved in the inflammatory responses. And how they are synthesized? They are synthesized from a fatty acid that is known as arachidonic acid, which we discussed in icosanoid. Arachidonic acid was a 20 carbon polyunsaturated fatty acid with 4 double bonds at position 5, 8, 11, and 14. So this arachidonic acid is one of the component of your phospholipids. अब अगर phospholipid का structure recall करें तो there was in terms of a glycerophospholipid, you had a glycerol backbone. In many of the glycerophospholipids, arachidonic acid is present at carbon number 2. So your membrane becomes the source of arachidonic acid. So this fatty acid, which is a PUFA, is very important to your system because this is responsible for your inflammatory responses. Now, when your system is encountering such type of responses, like you may encounter pain or fever or slip swelling or platelet aggregation or any type of thrombosis, the simplest drug is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. And one of the category of NSAID is an aspirin. Aspirin is an over-the-counter drug. So this aspirin has a tendency of inhibiting an enzyme COX-1 and COX-2. COX stands for cyclooxygenase 1 and cyclooxygenase 2. These are isozymes. So when aspirin is inhibiting COX-1 and COX-2, the whole cascade of converting arachidonic acid to the pro-inflammatory and prostacyclins would be inhibited. So transiently what happens is that when we take aspirin, the pain goes off, the fever goes off. So after some time it returns back. Why? Why does it return back? Because the enzyme that you had inhibited, COX-1 and COX-2, would be having its genetic code present in your inside your cell. So your cell will resynthesize COX-1 and COX-2. But you cannot revert back whatever COX-1 and COX-2 were inhibited. that existing inhibited COX-1 and COX-2's activity cannot be reverted back. Your cell needs to synthesize it back. That takes few hours. 4 घंटे 5 घंटे 6 घंटे बाद कभी कभी होता है एस्प्रिन ले ली थी, फिर से फीवर का फील हो रहा है, फिर से पेन की फीलिंग आ रही है. So that is the reason that your cells leaving the platelets. Platelets don't have the nucleus and therefore DNA is not there. So whatever COX of platelet is inhibited, it is completely inhibited because your platelet cannot synthesize it back. But rest of the cells can synthesize the enzyme back. So if enzyme is resynthesized, it will take few hours. So this will again initiate with the synthesis of these thromboxanes and prostaglandins. So this is an example of a suicide inhibition where your enzyme, existing enzyme, if at all it is inhibited, it is completely inhibited. Now your cell needs to resynthesize enzyme, starting from the translation to transcription to translation, and finally a protein would be there and it would be modified and then supplied to the cell and set to the site for the activity. That will take few hours. So this is these are the two examples of drugs where allopurinol for inhibiting xanthine oxidase given in hyperuricemia, where the hyperuricemia has a metabolic cause only. Aspirin given to inhibit COX-1 and COX-2. See, COX-1 and COX-2 have very two different functions. There are number of drugs which are designed so that only COX-1 could be inhibited or only COX-2 could be inhibited, that are known as celecoxibs. तो वो अभी नहीं पढ़ने हमें, अभी हमें सिर्फ एक एस्प्रिन का एग्जांपल ध्यान रखना है कि एक एस्प्रिन जो है वो एक सुसाइड इनहिबिटर की तरह से एक्ट करता है. So this type of inhibition is non-reversible and it cannot be reverted back. So this is all for today, and this is a very important topic. Usually it is asked